Let me guess. People don't keep answering the question you actually want to know. Simple fix. Ask different questions. So as an example, if you're a sales guy, I've done many sales for my company. We sell maths tutoring services, right? And one of the most classic questions that we have to ask is, when are you free to solve this pain that you have? Because you have to put in time to do it. If you just come out with, hey, so like, what time's going to work for you in the evening? They're going to come up with so many excuses, on average, as to why they can't do it. I often hear, oh, well, I'm so busy, like, it really depends. This day I'm actually so, no, can't do Mondays, no, can't do Tuesdays. And then they just write off the whole week. If that rare occasion happens, because I haven't asked the questions properly, I then go and ask my questions properly. And this is... My bad. Let's go through this day by day. What time do you get home from school? And they're like, oh, well, I finished school at 3:40 and it's a 15-minute walk. I'm like, oh, great. So you're always home by 4 o'clock if you need to be. And they're like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, let's have a look at Monday. Once you are home at 4 o'clock, is there a time you have to leave the house again? And they're like, oh, actually, no. Like, I don't have any sports or anything on. You're like, oh, okay, so Monday, 4 o'clock onwards you're free. Oh, yeah, I guess that works. Shocker. Then you go through this each day, just like this, and then you find out the person that's super busy the whole time is actually free all the time. People are nowhere near as busy as they think they are. If this is you, if you've ever worked in a 9 to 5, and you thought, oh man, I'm so busy, and now, if you're watching this, you're probably into high-ticket sales, or you probably run a business. And if you do one of those two things, you realised anyone working in a 9 to 5 does sweet FA, right? They work maybe 3 or 4 hours a day across 9 to 10 hours because someone comes and speaks to them. Like, I had this exactly today. I was working at the gym, and at my gym there's a cafe, and loads of people, a cafe and a pool, much like this, and loads of people come by, and I've made loads of friends. And so today I got stopped like 3 times in an hour, and each one was a 15-minute conversation. So in an hour I'd done 15 minutes of work. And let's be honest, it takes me 15 minutes to get into my deep work to figure out what I'm doing, if that. And so, like, I actually did a couple of minutes work in a whole hour. This is just a consistent trait. People think they are way busier than they actually are. And so, to get around this, you have to figure out the boundaries by what's possible. So in physics, we call this first principle thinking. So we ask, what constraints are there that are universally accepted laws, and then let's build up from there. So in this scenario, what time can you physically get home? That is the earliest anyone would be able to start, realistically. Some people would stay at school, and you can figure that out. But on average, it's a great place to start. And then, what time do you have to leave the house again is much better than, do you have sports in the evening? Because if they say yes, it just writes off the whole thing. Or if you say, what time do you have your drumming lessons? They might say 7 o'clock. You have no idea how far away that is. And so really the only time you care about is what time they have to leave. See how we are breaking this down into more simple questions that encompass all of it. And it makes it much easier for them to answer too, because then they go, oh yeah, so actually I get in at 4:45 and I leave at 7. And you're like, oh great, so between 5 and 7 we can fit you in. Fantastic. We've just created the time where you were just going to faff around and walk about, because they probably feel like they actually don't have the time. It's not that they are intentionally lying to you, they're just not using their time effectively. So you can do this with all sorts of questions. So as an example, for another one, in our calls, we ask, or rather, we try to paint a picture of what they have tried before that worked really well, and what they tried before that didn't work well, so that we can do less of the stuff that didn't work and more of the stuff that did. But if you ask that, you're not going to get a lot of information, especially from kids. And so how we ask this question instead is say, hey, who's your favourite teacher at school? And they go, oh, Mr. Jones. And you're like, oh, sweet. What does Mr. Jones do that you really like, that you find helpful? And they're like, oh, he's just really funny. Like, he actually cares what we talk about. He explains things really clearly, like breaks it down, gives us these steps and like these tests. You're like, oh, fantastic. Okay, on the flip side, who's the worst teacher? And they're like, oh, don't really know. And I'm like, look, come on. If you had to rank them in order of who's best, someone's at the bottom. Who's that person? And they're like, oh, Mr. Smith. And you're like, oh yeah, Mr. Smith, he's an arse. No, I don't know him. But what does Mr. Smith do that you find not so helpful? Oh, well, honestly, he just talks at us. And like, he couldn't care less if we were in the room or not. And you're like, right. And so then from that, I then make a summary back to them, and I have the answer to the question I actually wanted to know, which is, you find it more helpful when someone is willing to take the time to give you the explanations rather than just lecturing you. Does that sound right? Like, that's the best way for you to learn? And they're like, oh my gosh, you've just distilled my entire schooling experience in 2 questions. Because the amount of skill someone has, the broader your instruction or your questions can be. Now, if you are dealing with a service, they're likely not going to be that skilled, and so you have to be very specific. You've got to narrow the questions down so that they can think in a smaller range of situations to actually figure out the answers. And then from there, you can use your expertise to actually build a picture for them. So I hope that's really helpful, because it was a game changer for us when we figured both of these out. All right, guys, have a great day. Peace.